Right after surviving a terrifying coup attempt, Captain Ibrahim Traoré made a move no one saw coming, welcoming Russian troops into Burkina Faso. The world is stunned, alliances are shifting, and power dynamics are changing fast. What does this bold move mean for Africa and the West? Stay till the end. This changes everything. Why is the world so afraid of Ibrahim Traoré? In Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not just fighting terrorists. He's defying global powers. From Paris to Washington, they want him gone. Inside his own country, political elites and traitors plot against him. Across Africa, even some leaders fear his rise. Why? Because Traoré's only crime is putting Burkina Faso first, reclaiming national pride, rejecting foreign domination, and refusing to bow. But Traoré is not backing down. He's building a powerful secret security network to defend his vision for Burkina Faso. Today, we reveal the new system Traoré is putting in place and why powerful forces are desperate to stop him before it's too late. This is the real battle for Africa's future, and Ibrahim Traoré is at the front line. In just 2 years, no other African leader has escaped more than 15 murder attempts. Traoré has been on high alert since the day he assumed power in Burkina Faso. No peace, no repose, one coup attempt after another. This goes beyond politics, it's war. A war against a guy who stands for something much greater than a state. A man who has turned into a threat because to his beliefs rather than his oppression. Some claim it's just the way military rule works. Then you could wonder why other Sahelian military chiefs haven't encountered this degree of peril. Chad, Gabon, and even Niger and Mali. This level of internal intrigue and outside pressure has never been experienced by any of their leaders. What distinguishes Traoré, then, not all he is a soldier. He is not merely the president. He represents a revolution. He is the unofficial leader of the AES coalition. He is also the leader of a spiritual movement. Traoré was the first to say that the Sahel is rising, not only changing. Pan-African intellectuals worldwide were enthralled by his address at the Russia-Africa Summit, his blaze, his idea, his stubborn resistance. Others were drawn to follow because of that, and for good reason. Dead or alive, he is currently Africa's most wanted man. 16th of April 2025, a date that might have made all the difference for Burkina Faso. Another storyline. President Ibrahim Traoré is being targeted for elimination once more. Furthermore, even if the coup was stopped, the threat still exists. It has changed. There are still those out there who want and gone, getting back together, making plans, pledging to attack once more. And they're not done yet. According to intelligence reports, they have committed to taking action before June 2025. They went where? They ran away to a neighboring country, not to the shadows. Ivory Coast, a country that is being accused more and more of working with France to destabilize Burkina Faso. The traitors were welcomed there as comrades, not as fugitives. Additionally, a new operations center has been established under the covered protection of Ivorian officials. Their objective: complete the task they began. Traoré, however, is not motionless. The president has taken a daring countermeasure in response to this growing menace. Insiders are referring to this as the lockdown doctrine. There's more to it than more security. It's a complete overhaul of his surroundings, individuals, methods, priorities. Nothing is left up to chance. According to local sources, it is a doctrine in which surveillance takes the place of ceremony and loyalty triumphs over position. The first significant change: the Presidential Guard's total reorganization. The elite group in charge of keeping Traoré safe. This action is not just vital. It is survival in a period when internal betrayal is possible. And one thing is evident as the tension in Ouagadougou persists. Traoré is getting ready for the next assault. Consider it. What's to say that President Traoré's own security hasn't already been compromised by betrayal? If senior Burkinabe military officers were prepared to do so, not only did some of these traitors desert, but they also paid other soldiers to cause unrest in the army. Some of those soldiers could have been members of the Presidential Guard itself, and Traoré cannot afford to take that chance. Traoré took bold action to defend the country and himself. He has reorganized the Presidential Guard entirely. Teams were reorganized. Suspicious people were discreetly kicked out, and only those who had shown their loyalty were allowed to return. However, loyalty alone was insufficient. Each new hire was subjected to a thorough and intrusive screening procedure. Their educational records, familial ties, political views, and even foreign relationships were examined in great detail, going well beyond standard background checks. Every possibility was explored. The uniform could only be worn by people who successfully completed all stages of this investigation. The Presidential Guard is more than merely a like these days. It is dependable, carefully chosen, resilient, and devoted. Traoré didn't stop there, though. Buriab remains revealed the nation's communication systems, another significant weakness. Due to this antiquated infrastructure, traitors were able to covertly provide enemy forces with critical military intelligence. The loophole has been closed with the introduction of encrypted systems intended to identify and monitor questionable transmissions in real time. Traoré has completely redesigned Burkina Faso's communication infrastructure. Any military personnel who dares to collaborate against the state or leak intelligence will henceforth be apprehended. They won't be given another chance this time. President Traoré has activated a previously inactive tier of defense in response to the growing threats. Previously concentrating only on external threats, the Office of Internal Counterintelligence has now been revived. Its scope has grown with a new mission. It now looks inside rather than only observing from the shadows outside Burkina Faso's boundaries. No one is exempt, including local police chiefs, province commanders, and cabinet ministers. Their loyalty is being questioned, and their political affiliations are being scrutinized, and people are reassigned if it is discovered that they have opinions that differ from President Traoré's vision. Both the capital and power are far away. This can appear excessive, even paranoid to some. However, paranoia is survival in an area where betrayal frequently originates from within. History serves as a harsh reminder. The revolutionary icon Thomas Sankara was betrayed and terminated by his best friend and fellow soldier, Blaise Compaoré. That has taught Traoré a lesson. He's resolved not to do it again. Traoré isn't merely strengthening his grip, though. Few people, outside of Burkina Faso, fully comprehend what he's doing, which is even more unusual. His covered weapon. Traoré formed a civilian militia, a volunteer defense group composed of common Burkina Faso residents who were prepared to fight for their nation's future as soon as he took office. The Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, or VDP, is their name. This organization was established to defend villages from terrorist assaults and was well-trained, equipped, and devoted to trial. They have now developed into something more, though. An additional line of defense for the country. A barrier between chaos and humans. A force unaffected by the colonial allegiances that some traditional army members still harbor. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. Traoré is recasting the DDP as a shield around the revolution itself, rather than just as village defenders in the wake of the most recent coup attempt and possibly the last defense for the man who has come to represent it. The DDT has been reorganized and mobilized, and it is now spread throughout Burkina Faso, with strategic locations at important military and administrative hubs. They are more than just standing watch, though. They have evolved into something greater. What's their new mission? Be watchdogs, like spies, notifying the president personally of any suspicious activity or odd behavior. Now Traoré's eyes and ears are spread throughout the country by these fervently committed civilian defenders. Any attempt to plot, organize, or betray will be discovered early thanks to their presence. What started out as a volunteer militia against terrorists has evolved into an internal immune system that can react quickly to internal threats. Traoré didn't stop there, though. The Ministry of the Interior has quietly started a new biometric tracking program as a result of his directive. It appears to be a nationwide registration drive. However, beneath that, it fulfills a much more specific function. This technology will monitor the movements of people identified as possible threats, both military and civilian. According to reports from Burkina Faso's intelligence network, they are now keeping an eye on those involved in the April 16th plot. Every phone conversation, meeting, and movement The age of surveillance has changed, and not everybody agrees. Social media has been used by critics, particularly those from outside, to accuse Traoré of turning into a power-hungry autocrat who uses technology and terror to maintain control. For Traoré's followers, however, this is nothing new. They have witnessed the assaults. They have seen the trickery. Furthermore, Burkina Faso is not a democracy. As Traoré has stated, it's a revolution. Furthermore, comfort is not the foundation of revolutions. They are based on survival, sacrifice, and alertness. No nation has ever truly developed through democracy alone, claims President Ibrahim Traoré. He believed that peaceful elections were not the means by which today's great powers, those at the forefront of business, technology, and sovereignty, rose to power. They ascended by revolutions and fearless unconventional leadership. But Burkina Faso is no exception for Traoré. He claims that this is not a democracy, it's a revolution, and resistance is a part of every revolution. This concept is hated by some people both domestically and abroad. Because Traoré foresee change, they are afraid of what he stands for, and the status quo is what they thrive on. These are the folks who are happy that Burkina Faso is one of the world's poorest countries, satisfied with the ongoing insecurity plaguing the nation, satisfied with the decades-long corruption that has engulfed its institutions. They wouldn't be attempting to terminate the man who is striving for change if they really desired it. The current disarray provides easy access to power and profit for Burkina Faso's elites. It is considerably more ominous for international actors. Unrestricted access to Burkina Faso's natural resources and the unrealized wealth of the Sahel is made possible by the country's fragile state. However, everything changed with Traoré's ascent, threatening to close the gates they have kept open. For years, he envisions a safe, independent, and industrialized Burkina Faso, and for that reason, they have attempted to get rid of him by whatever means possible since the beginning. He was the target of 4 coup attempts between September 2022, when he first took office, until September 2023. They didn't succeed. However, Traoré made the surprising decision to choose kindness over retribution. He did not harm them. No trials, no jail. Rather, he issued a warning. Keep your distance, or let the impending event consume you. However, that initial coup was just the start. Following swiftly behind, the second and third took place in the same month, October 2023. Traoré had a new strategy this time. No cautions were given, no second chances. They made arrests. Investigations were started. But Burkina Faso was under siege from October 2023 to September 2024, from inside its own ranks as well as from external adversaries. Plot after plot, try after try, the situation worsened by the time the 9th coup attempt was discovered. This was more than just a political issue. It was terroristic. According to intelligence reports, the former Junta leader Paul-Henri Damiba, who is currently living in exile in Togo, was responsible for the conspiracy. Damiba developed sleeper cells inside the Burkina military that remained loyal to him, had tacit assistance from Ivory Coast authorities, and collaborated with known terrorist groups from a distance. The outcome: a lethal attack that terminated both soldiers and civilians. A harsh reminder that power is not the only factor in the fight against Traoré. It's about Burkina Faso's core essence. The depth of Damiba's plot was unexpected. He organized Burkina soldiers, individuals who had sworn allegiance to defend but were now working with terrorists. They planned an attack on Bartolago, a strategically important town perilously near the capital Ouagadougou, using secret military intelligence. It was a vicious attack. Numerous servicemen and citizens lost their lives. The town collapsed. However, this was not merely a military attack. It was a psychological maneuver designed to cause discord within the military, challenge Traoré's security reforms, and weaken his authority. The final objective: mutiny, anarchy, breakdown. However, the plan didn't work out. A few of the conspirators were taken into custody. The others dispersed. More attempts have been made since they've all failed. However, they all have one thing in common: fingerprints from another country. External players frequently appear, Behind the scenes, escalating instability, financing opposition, and weaponizing treaty. Traore's recent security update isn't merely a precaution because of this. It is a strategic requirement. Because politics is no longer the issue here. It's not personal, it's war, a conflict with unseen adversaries in opposition to traitors against the system that has long benefited from the pain of Burkina Faso. Furthermore, Traoré views self-defense as more than just a matter of survival. It's about standing up for a future, vision, a future in which Burkina Faso achieves its independence. I find it quite disheartening that someone like Traoré, who is working to effect genuine change, must take such drastic measures in order to remain safe. Why are people unable to simply let him to accomplish his goals? His work is clearly going to be difficult. He is fighting both domestic strife and terrorism. How can the war against terrorism actually be successful with all of that going on? Even more annoying is the fact that threats aren't limited to physical harm. The media is also attacking Traoré in a big way. And to be honest, that could be much riskier. The power of the media is enormous. It influences people's thought processes. One comment from a well-known source can spread suspicion, rage, or fear among millions or even billions of people. Regretfully, those who wish to see Traoré go are aware of this and are taking advantage of it. It seems like Traoré has been singled out more than any other leader lately. Not only was it criticized, but it was continuously tarnished by false information. His appearances in Western media are consistently unfavorable. These reporters seem to have selective recollection. On the other hand, it might not be so shocking. Ultimately, they are merely promoting what is advantageous to the West. The audacious charge that President Traoré is using Burkina Faso's gold to defend himself was made by the U.S. commander of AFRICOM only a few weeks ago. Really, we are all aware that's untrue. Actually, Traoré has made it a point to use the nation's wealth for the good of the populace rather than for his own benefit. And let's face it, isn't it his right, even if some of that gold was utilized for security? He is always fending off dangers. Why does every time an African leader chooses to defend his nation, the United States feels compelled to interfere? However, it doesn't end there. According to another article, Traoré is using the wealth of the country to profit himself. To be honest, that's absurd. We have witnessed the manifestation of corruption in Africa. While their people suffer, leaders live in luxury, travel in private aircraft, and shop in Paris. Traoré, though, he's not made of that stuff. We would see the signals if you were stealing his clothing. The ostentatious automobiles and the enormous residences would all display it. However, none of that is true. Traoré continues to wear basic clothing. He doesn't drive for show. He drives for necessity. He maintains his sense of groundedness in every way, not to mention that he would be traveling all the time like so many others if he were actually enriching himself. However, he isn't. He remains in Burkina Faso dealing with the issues, interacting with the populace, and carrying out the actual labor. You don't see each other very often, and that's precisely the reason they fear him. This is merely another desperate attempt to incite opposition to President Traoré. Let's face it, there was a time when headlines around the world said that Traoré was slaughtering members of the Fanis, a particular ethnic group in Burkina Faso. They claimed that he became so irate that he refocused a military plan on the Felanis. That assertion, particularly among Burkina Faso residents in France, it provoked demonstrations. Some even went so far as to call for his resignation. However, it was all false. Much like the charges of corruption and gold, the Fani people were never singled out by Traoré's administration. Journalists within Burkina Faso, who are the ones who live, breathe, and walk those streets every day, would have covered the campaign, if it had existed. However, they didn't. Rather, those promoting this story are not domestic. They are media outlets, commentators, and purported analysts who have never visited Burkina Faso. Despite this, their voices are the loudest. Here's the problem, though. As Africans, we cannot afford to ignore this type of false information. We have an obligation to ensure that the truth is heard. Stories published hundreds of miles abroad cannot be allowed to control our diasporic brothers and sisters, such as the Burkina Faso and France. Despite his flaws, President Traoré is one of the few presidents who is genuinely working to bring about change for the entire continent of Africa, not just Binaso. This revolution might finish if Traoré is AED from office or worse, terminated. Let's also be truthful. We may not see another leader like him for years or maybe decades. Tell us what you think in the comment section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching. In the aftermath of a dangerous coup attempt, most leaders would retreat, rebuild, and quietly negotiate behind closed doors. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not most leaders. Instead of folding under pressure, he responded with a move that has shaken the global stage, a formal military alliance with Russia, and the arrival of Russian troops on Burkina Faso soil. This bold decision wasn't just about security. It was a message, a signal that Burkina Faso is done playing by old rules dictated by colonial powers and international brokers. After years of watching external forces meddle in African sovereignty, Traoré is making it clear, Burkina Faso will now choose its allies on its own terms. The decision came swiftly after the failed coup attempt, which insiders now say was backed by both internal traitors and foreign interests seeking to destabilize Traoré's revolutionary reforms. But what those forces underestimated was Traoré's resolve and his growing network of international partnerships. Russian troops, reportedly specialized in intelligence support, anti-coup tactics, and border protection, arrived quietly but quickly. Within 48 hours, they were seen coordinating with Burkina Faso's military command, not as occupiers, but as tactical partners. Their mission? Ensure stability, reinforce national sovereignty, prevent further internal threats. The West responded with immediate concern. Media outlets framed the move as a dangerous pivot toward authoritarian influence. Some Western officials warned of sanctions, diplomatic fallout, and long-term isolation. But for many Africans watching from the ground, the message was clear. Traoré is doing what leaders before him feared, choosing protection without conditions. In a fiery national address, Traoré didn't mince words. "We are not aligning with tyranny," he said. "We are aligning with those who respect our right to self-determination. If the West calls this a threat, it means they never wanted us free in the first place." His speech went viral. Across social platforms, young Africans praised the move. Memes, videos, and hashtags exploded with support. For the first time in decades, many felt they were witnessing a shift, not just in Burkina Faso but across Africa. A shift away from dependency and into a new age of assertive, strategic leadership. But Traoré's move wasn't just military. He also announced a continental security summit, inviting African nations who are tired of being dictated to. The goal? Create a united African security pact, free from neo-colonial influence and rooted in mutual defense and economic independence. Of course, risks remain. Aligning with Russia brings its own complexities, and the global chessboard is more volatile than ever. But Traoré is playing it boldly and transparently. In the eyes of many, he's not just protecting Burkina Faso. He's standing for a vision of Africa that refuses to beg, bow, or break. One that builds with those who respect it and stands firm against those who seek to control it. Captain Ibrahim Traoré just drew a line in the sand, and the world is watching. Not with pity, but with respect, and maybe even fear, because Africa, under leaders like him, is finally learning to defend itself and demand its place at the table.